Welcome to part 8, where you're going to animate the bouncing ball. You can now take the soccer ball rig and use it to animate. You'll learn how to set keyframes, adjust animation curves, and work with time-space handles in the viewport. The bouncing ball is a classic animation exercise that offers a great opportunity to learn the basics of animating in Houdini. Okay, so what we want to do is let's start with this little button here, which is going to open up the global animation options, and we're going to set the end of this to 120 frames. And press close. You see the timeline now goes from 1 to 120. So we just don't need it to be longer than that. Now make sure we're on frame 1. We're going to get the pose tool and we're going to click on this here. We're going to zoom out and we're going to move the ball back to, let's go all the way to, let's go minus 30. So we're really far back there. And we're going to take this that we've selected. Now, one of the things here is we don't really need to animate scale, so we're going to lock that. And we're not going to animate rotation on this node, so we're going to lock that. And this will allow us to only focus on these two parameters for this particular node. So let's press K. Now we're going to move the timeline all the way to here. And then we're going to set the position of the ball to 0. And we are going to press K to get our second keyframe. And now you'll see that we're moving from there to there, and the expressions that we set up inside the soccer ball are working properly. So we are getting the rotation of the ball and everything is working great. Now once we have that, we're going to set some other keyframes. So we're going to go to frame 12 and we're going to press K. Okay. We're going to go to frame 36, press K, and we're going to go to frame 60. We're going to press K. So these are the places where we want the ball to be on the ground. Now we're going to go back to frame 1 and we're going to lift this up. Now because there's already a keyframe there, we don't need to press keyframe again. It will actually hold that keyframe. Then we're going to move to frame 24 and we're going to lift it off the ground as well. And this time we do need to press K. And we're going to move to 48 and we're going to lift it a little bit less off the ground and press K. So there we go. Boom, 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 boom. So we got the animation, but it's looking a little sort of floats, whereas we'd like to have some hard hits on that. So we're going to click on the animation editor, which is right here. Now if we focus on translate Y, we can see that here. What we want to do is we're going to select the 3 keyframes where it touches the ground, and we're going to click on untie handles, and then that allows us, okay, well, we're going to take this, select one half and bring it up, select the other half, bring it up, select one half, bring it up, select the other half, bring it up. And this one, now in this case here, we're going to go up with this, and then we're going to go, I'm going to take this, and we're going to move that up, and this one, yeah, we leave that one flat. Okay. You just press H to see that. So we can see where the curve used to be, and now we see where the curve is now. We can also, if we want to close this at the peak, we can bring that out just to, so the ball gets up into the air and spends a little more time up in the air before it comes down, and when it comes down a little more rapidly. So that can be set up as well. So once we have that, we can go to our scene view, and if we press, let's go animate, we see how it feels like it's hitting a little harder. It's hitting nicer. Boom, boom, boom. But The distances are a little off, but we'll tweak with that. Let's just... Now, one of the things we can do with this is, if we want to, is based on the pose tool that we have here, one of the options here is to display a motion path. And this will actually show us where things are. And what we find is, maybe we find that, what we want to do is we want to click on that and say persistent. So that handle, even if we deselect, that handle is still going to be there. And one of the things you can do with this is you can take points on this and actually move them around. So I want to do that. Maybe I want to go a little higher with this. This is going to go over a little bit. And then this one is going to go a little further. What we want to do is we want the bigger bounce to go a little further. And then we want the other bounce. Let's just click this. So that's going to go a little bit less, but what we can do is click on this. Keep losing it. Let's zoom in. Maybe we can distinguish it a little bit more there. We're getting the two are overlapping a little bit, so it's hard to... What we can do is maybe, let's just take this endpoint here. Let's just lower that down a little bit, so then when we do this, we can actually get that handle, and then we can move that in a little bit more. Perfect. And then we can take this and just move that back up. So that gives us what we want, and then we can press play to see that, and just see boom, 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 and then it sort of goes from there. So those handles can be quite useful to help us with this. Now we can also, to display this a little bit further, is if we go to the animation, let's talk about animation, we go to the miscellaneous tab. One of the options is we can turn on onion skinning. We need to do full deformation. And then we need to go D, and from the scene tab, we can set how many frames before and how many frames after, and the frame increment. So we might want to change that to like 2, so it just really focused there. And then we can say the ones before should be a little bit red, and actually the ones before should be blue. Let's go pale blue. And the ones in the back, we're going to do a pale sort of red. So now as we go to animate this, we can press play, and we can see that, we can see the motion there. Now of course it's hit our our frame rate's been hit, so that's not ideal, but you can get a sense of that. So we do have some onion skinning there. If we don't want that, just change that to off, and we'll go back to our normal frame rate for this. That can be helpful from a visualization point of view, just to see whether the things we're doing are actually functioning properly. Now, one of the things you can also do is, from a timing point of view, you can select this node, and you can say, you know what, I wouldn't mind if this happened a little faster. Shift click from there to there, and then we can middle click and drag on that handle and scale that down, maybe going to somewhere around here. Now that doesn't change it much, except for what it does is you go with the timing, is it's now going a little bit faster. So you can control your timing and so on with that. And if you wanted to, we could lift that back up again if we wanted to. Well, that's not updating right now. But if we went back to the animation editor, we could go, oh, this one's got pushed back. So that wasn't meant to be pushed back there. You want that to still be there. to match there, but we did tighten the timeline there. We could come in, and that doesn't seem to be centered very well, so we can fix that a little bit there. Okay, so we go back to the scene view. Now we're coming back from the proper place, and we go, and we go there. There we go. Okay, so that's doing what we want it to do. Now, if we go back to the animation editor from the point of view of the X translation, you'll see that there's lots of keyframes in the middle. We don't really need those, and we can probably take this and just bring that up. And that will create a smoother transition as we go through all of these. So there we go. That's a lot smoother rather than having those intermediate keyframes. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get the squash control. And if we go to the pose tool, we don't need a motion path for that. But what this will allow us to do is start to keyframe the one thing that we have here, which is the translate Y. So the general idea here is that we want to be, when we're up in the air, we're going to press K. When we move down to here, we're going to go K. When we go to the actual frame where it hits the ground, we create the squash. And when we go back up one frame, we bring it up again. And then we go up to here, and if we wanted to push it a little bit further, we could. And we keep doing this to sort of bring that down a little bit. Okay. Push that down a lot, and push that up. And that's what we've got there. And if we see it, boom, boom, boom. So that's giving us a real punch there when we do that. So that just similarly, we're going to press K there. We're going to go there, where we're going to push it down. And then we go back to normal. We probably go up a little bit, and then a couple frames later, we go back to normal, which is essentially 0. And we set a keyframe. So once we have these in place, we can just press play, and there we go. So we get a nice stretch, squash and stretch. Boom, 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 boom. Perfect. Now while you're playing this back, you might want to turn on this real-time toggle just to make absolutely certain that you're seeing it in real time. Because if it can play back faster, it'll go faster than 24 frames a second. Okay, so we want to go back to the soccer ball control, and we're going to right-click on this. And we're going to go Motion Effects and Noise. And what this does is initially it just goes crazy, and it adds noise to all this. And we can bring this panel to sort of get what we want. So we can go into here and let's put the amplitude down to 5, which tones it down quite a bit. That not enough though. It's still pretty crazy. So what we want to do is maybe go down to 1. Okay, that's looking better. Now, some of this motion goes below ground, so it's going underneath the ground. We don't want that. So we can do the same thing where we go back to this node, click on here, right-click on here, and say Motion Effects, and this time we're going to go Limit. And in the case of the limit, we're going to set the minimum to 0 and the maximum to, I don't know, 10. So what this does is it allows, you'll see how it only bumps up when it goes above the ground. So that's perfect. Now the other thing is we don't want the noise when the ball is bouncing. So one option here is at this point here, let's go back to this noise. And we'll go to the amplitude. And we're going to set that amplitude to 0 at that point, and we're going to go Alt and set a keyframe. Then we're going to move forward to this point, and at this point we're going to Alt to set a keyframe. Sorry, set that to 1 and Alt to set a keyframe. Now if we go to the animation editor, we'll see that right now that doesn't happen harshly. We want to change that to this option so that it makes the change right at that point. So it's 0 until it switches to 1. So now we can go into here. Let's get our whole animation sort of functioning here. And we can go back and say, and then it gets sort of bumpy from that point on. And if we go back to the object level, we can turn off this grid if we want. If we want to get a feel for this, what we can do is let's right click on this handle and turn off persistent. And now let's bring up this flipbook. And this will allow us to flipbook what we've got so far and see how it looks. So we can come back to here and we can say, let's see what this looks like. And there we go. We might have wanted to turn off the display on the controls if we wanted to really evaluate it, but this is good enough for now. Okay, so now that we've got an animation of a bouncing ball, we want to be able to get this back into Solaris where we can render it out as a finished animation. So that's what we're going to do next.